Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. You know, talent management is one of those corporate buzzwords we hear all the time. But today, we're taking it out of its traditional silos and breaking down the exact continuous loop that top-tier organizations use to scale. We're going to demystify the interconnected ecosystem that makes finding, keeping, and growing incredible people an absolute science.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 5 key areas real quick: defining talent management, hiring and retention, the recruitment cycle, development and assessment, and finally, the feedback loop. Let's dive right in.
Starting off with Section 1, defining talent management, and why it's way more than just an HR thing. So what are we actually talking about here? At its core, talent management is really just a set of integrated strategies for hiring, developing, and retaining your people. Now, the magic word there is integrated. Actually, a lot of companies just treat these as totally isolated HR checklists, and frankly, that's exactly where things start to break down. But when you get it right, leadership, management, and HR all operate as one cohesive machine. And this graphic here brilliantly illustrates what we mean by an integrated ecosystem. Take a look at these 3 overlapping pillars: attract, retain, and develop. They literally cannot exist in separate silos. I mean, think about it. Your strategy to attract talent directly impacts who you end up retaining, right? And how you develop your people dictates how long they're actually going to stay. It's like a giant puzzle. Neglect just one piece, and the whole system kind of loses its balance. Moving on to Section 2, hiring and retention. This is really about building the foundation of your team. Okay, so the absolute bedrock of bringing people in and keeping them is your employer brand. And look, let's be real. Your employer brand isn't just about having ping pong tables in the break room or some catchy, corporate slogan. It's your actual real-world reputation. It's built on your core values, your everyday culture, and the genuine growth opportunities you offer. Top talent, they see right through the marketing fluff for sure. You've got to authentically deliver on this stuff every single day. Now, check out this massive 40% figure on screen. This is wild. Purpose-driven companies, meaning those that actively support some kind of social good or mission, they actually boast a 40% higher retention rate than companies that don't. 40%. That is a staggering advantage. Competitive pay might get people in the door, but genuine purpose, that's the anchor that keeps your absolute best performers from jumping ship. All right, Section 3, the recruitment cycle. Let's look at how dynamic this process actually is.
So how do we operationalize this? Well, recruitment shouldn't just be some frantic reaction to an empty desk. It's a calculated 4-step cycle. First, establish clear, measurable objectives. Like, what exactly do you need? Second, set a specific strategy to go find those folks. Third, implement that strategy out in the wild. And then, and this is absolutely crucial, step 4, evaluate your results. Why? Because that evaluation immediately feeds right back into step 1 for your next round. It's a continuous, evolving loop.
But hey, let's face facts. Even with the best strategy in the world, turnover happens. People have planned life events. Maybe they get frustrated with some internal process, or, it happens, they get poached by a competitor offering better options. Understanding exactly why people leave is vital, and honestly, it sets up perfectly why our next phase, development, is your absolute best defense mechanism against it. Which brings us to Section 4, development and assessment, or as I like to call it, growing your team. Now, this development process usually kicks off with a high-level talent review. And to get it right, you have to ask some pretty powerful Socratic-style questions to bridge the gap between HR and the overall business goals. A prime example is right here. What kinds of leaders do we need to develop in order to support the business strategy? Think about that for a second. We aren't just asking what random skills people want to learn, right? We are directly tying human development to the long-term strategic goals of the actual business. So to pull this off, companies use some pretty cool frameworks. One of my favorites is the GROW coaching model. It's super actionable and breaks down into 4 targeted questions. G for goal. What do you want to achieve? R for reality. Where are you right now compared to that goal? O for options. What paths could you actually take to close that gap? And W for way forward. What specific steps are you going to commit to? This whole thing tangibly helps employees map out their growth, making sure nobody feels stuck in a rut. And what's one of the absolute best ways to put that way forward into action? Stretch assignments. This is when you purposefully push an employee just a little bit outside their current comfort zone to teach them new skills that directly benefit the company. It's a real game changer. When you pair that targeted growth with a solid reward system, wow. You're not just training people anymore. You're actively incentivizing the exact behaviors that drive your company forward.
And finally, section 5, the feedback loop, keeping that continuous growth alive.
Because look, development and assessment, they aren't just one-and-done events. They have to be ongoing. If this graphic looks familiar, well, that's because it perfectly mirrors that recruitment cycle we looked at earlier. It's a continuous 4-step feedback loop. Clarify expectations, set the goals, give continuous feedback, and evaluate the results. Doing this ensures you're constantly syncing an employee's daily performance with the ever-evolving strategy of the business. So, what's the payoff for all this? Well, when you finally stop siloing your HR tasks and fully commit to this continuous loop, the results are undeniable. We're talking increased productivity across the board, way lower training and turnover costs, which saves a ton of money, and the organic growth of a rich company culture that top-tier talent will literally fight to join.
All right, we've unpacked the whole ecosystem of attracting, retaining, and developing great people. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Take a good, hard look at your own organization. Are you treating talent management as a truly dynamic, continuous loop? Or are you just grinding through a series of disconnected HR tasks? Figuring out the honest answer to that is step 1 to building an unstoppable team. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep on learning, and I'll catch you next time.